Hi there, knife people. Hello, lady and gentlemen. Today I'm going to talk about 3 very budget knives that I got at Walmart. Starting with this pocket knife that I brought today. It has some kind of Swiss name to it.
Würdig. Was it Würdig? Würdig.
It has green micarta handles and they call it titanium coated blade made out of Aus 8 steel, but to me it looks awfully lot like Teflon. Made in China by a global company called Great Star. I think the Chinese factory is called Hangzhou Star, and it's located in the town of Hangzhou.
I can almost guarantee that you already own a knife from this company, either in the form of Civivi seen here or a similarly appointed Kershaw. Any budget knife is a game for that company.
So the construction is frame with a liner lock, and it has 2 methods of opening: a flipper tab and a thumb disc. And thumb disc is located a little bit too close to the handle in my opinion, and that requires using a little bit of a wrist, just a hair. The edge on this knife was a pleasant surprise. As you can see, it's a finely ground edge. It came very sharp from the factory, and I really didn't have to do anything to it because the grind structure on the edge is acceptable and will not promote chipping. The blade itself is ground with a flat grind, and it extends all the way to the tip, to the top or to the spine here, and it's a little narrower in this area. So overall it gives it a very streamlined and appealing look. The mechanism here, it runs according to the packaging, it runs on a ball bearing, but I see, in looking inside the frame, I see some kind of interesting pin and groove construction where there's a pin in the blade and there are grooves in the liner where it facilitates rotation of the blade. I think it's done for strength, and I think it's going to be a pretty strong chopper and cutter. But today I'm not going to chop with it because I brought a fixed blade knife from the same company. But before I get to the fixed blade, and believe me, it's worth waiting for because there are a lot of good things about that knife. I grabbed, while I was at Walmart, I grabbed basically a more gentlemanly option for their new Swiss Tech flipper knife. And I think this one is geared more toward everyday carry use because it doesn't have the thumb disc, but it has a very nicely functional flipper.
This model is called Gurundet, and I don't know what that means. If you do, please drop a comment.
This one has the liner cutouts that the blade, and you probably can see the pin here. See the pin traveling? It rides in these grooves, which provides for very stable blade geometry. So I'm pleased with both edges. The edge geometry is not too narrow, not too wide. I think it's pretty well supported edge, and the quality of sharpening is pretty high. And here's like newspaper quality paper, and both of these knives do a reasonably good job cutting and slicing this paper, especially the green micarta copy of the knife. I think either I got very lucky with the knife, so either I got very lucky with this particular blade, or they're all of that high quality. Let me know in the comments if you already own one. So it's a great pair. It comes in an amazing packaging compared to any other knife they sell. It's a nice heavy cardboard magnetically closing box. So if you're looking for a present for somebody who's young and a beginner in the knives, both are $30 knives, so very reasonably priced. And Aus 8 steel is a Japanese steel which is I think it's a basic, but there are tons of other less expensive and much worse steels beneath it. For example, all the cheaper knives that a Walmart sells are made out of 3CR steel, 5CR steel, very soft stainless steel. This is actually a decent hard steel. It's just a basic compared to others. So I would say the target audience for it is a knife enthusiast in the making, or if you want to bring your dad or even granddad into the modern world of one-hand opening knife and get them to switch from their buck 110 to something more contemporary, that would be a great gift for somebody, in just my opinion, because it's packaged nicely. It gives us a little bit of pizzazz. They both came with this lanyard cordage. I weaved a couple cobra knots on it, and the way I usually attach cordages in such a way that I can remove it if I don't want to, just doing this. So nice little package. Would I take it on an outdoors adventure? Sure, why not? Let's try some feathering here. Let's clear the bark. Cuts right through. You can see it feathers nicely. And it takes almost no time to get some burr going for starting fire. It's not very hard wood. Today is not a torture test day. I just wanted to demonstrate the new knife. I'm a little bit excited. I think industry does not deliver a lot of entry-level knives that perform like this one. So no, sorry, that's me. No reduction in sharpness. AUS steel is not known for edge retention, but it is known for ease of sharpening. So if you're going to hard to use a knife like that, I recommend bringing some stropping or sharpening implement with you. The fixed blade is $10 more than the folder. This is overall about 9 inches long, including the scabbard or sheath. So let's start from the edge out. The edge itself, the grind is very nice and symmetrical. So there's a lot of effort that's been put into the grind. The blade itself quite a bit thicker than the folder, but somehow it did not amount to a perfect cutter like the folder is. So there's a little bit, I think they used a little bit, say, thin paper like that. It will still cut wood, all right. And it's actually, sorry about, it will cut wood. It bites in. It's just not slicey enough for the paper. So easy fix, because it's also made out of Aus 8, which will be extremely easy to sharpen. Just like the folder, the fixed blade has same motif. It's green micarta. Although here I'm going to point out some differences. The pocket knife has a glossier finish. It's smooth, so it sort of feels more like a smooth G10 than a micarta, which in my opinion kind of undermines the micarta. When considering running some sandpaper over the surface, it's not supposed to be slick. The reason manufacturers use micarta is to have a little bit of texture to it, which the fixed blade does. And while I'm on the topic, I'm going to talk about the color scheme. The knife makers and sellers, they believe that outdoorsy green colors, natural colors, will sell the knife better. And I'm going to say yes. Most people will see this color and say, okay, well, that looks like a forest ranger's uniform, so it must be for, rated for outdoors. But in reality, it will sell you the knife twice, because a green knife like that, if you set it on a tree trunk, it will blend in right here. Without this red accent, you can't see it. Turn it where you can see the red accent, and it pops right there. So I'm glad they included some accents, and the fixed blade knife actually comes with a ferrous rod that I usually attach a bright red, orange, blue, green cordage so that I don't lose it. I've lost enough of these that I don't want to lose it anymore. The ferrous rod also has green micarta handle. What they forgot to do is put a ferrule or a hole in the little handle, so I had to tie paracord slightly different than I normally do. So I can't wear it around my neck because of that, and I didn't want too long of a piece. But it sits nicely. The website says, or Walmart app says that it's Kydex sheets, but it's not. It's thermal plastic resembling Kydex. Well, do you see that?
I'm quietly cussing here. Why can't we get a decent sheath? 9 out of 10 sheaths I test do this.
Which may be a problem because I was unable to increase tension to where it doesn't do this. So when the knife freely sort of falls out of the sheath like that, it's not freely, so there's good retention for like normal carry, but if you were to snag on something or tumble down the slope accidentally, it potentially could come out of the sheath. Will it come out? For sure, maybe not. There is a probability, so they did not exclude this probability. And most sheaths, unfortunately, for outdoor knives are made that way. So a secondary retention method wouldn't hurt, but as it comes without one, I recommend it as a pack carry inside your backpack, not on the strap, not on the back, not on your belt. You're going to lose the knife. If a knife with that little of retention, you will lose it in the woods. And if you don't attach something bright like this orange paracord, it will disappear. But you know, I've seen a much more expensive knife, like Gerber Strong Arm has one of the worst sheath systems in the market, and it costs another $30 on top of this knife.
Carrying your knife on the belt or backpack strap doesn't make you look like an avid outdoorsman. Quite the opposite is true. You should put it in the backpack.
All right, well, so let's get into the blade. Saber grind or flat grind, I'm going to say 75% flat grind. You could see that it cuts wood just fine because the angle on the edge is not less than 40 degrees inclusive, or 20 degrees per side, which is perfect. You don't need to be much finer than that on the Bushcraft knife. You need a finer edge. Bring a folder for smaller tasks. Eats into the wood nicely. Let's see, will chop well. A pretty thick geometry here. This is I would say pushing 3 millimeter thickness here, and that is a-okay for batoning and doing any tasks you want. There is a circular cutout for striking the ferrous rod. I haven't tried that, so now is a good time. Unfortunately, they coated that coating right over it, and the coating is slick, so I don't know if I can generate enough friction. I'm doing it honestly for the first time here. All right, so it was sharp enough to scrape some paint off of the ferrous rod. Yeah, I'm gonna say it worked. Well, this is pretty good quality rod because it throws very nice spark, actually. Good spark. That's a stainless steel, by the way, so there's a myth out there that you need a carbon steel to strike ferrous rod. No, the sparks come from the rod, not from your blade. So any sharp, even like a piece of broken glass, should theoretically be able to strike that rod and produce sparks. Like I said, the handle here deserves a special sort of chapter in this video because it's extremely, it doesn't look like it would be super comfortable, but for my medium-sized hand, I have perfect grip. And the grip is symmetric, so if I needed to rotate the knife in a different orientation and work downwards like this, I have plenty of approaches. There is not a pronounced finger guard, but I think this is sufficient because when you're doing push cuts like this or piercing cuts, you're supposed to support the handle with the heel of your hand anyway. And it gives you plenty of space, and if you did slip, there is a little bit of a hand guard here. What is missing is pinching choils here on the micarta scales. And I tested these screws, by the way. I wanted to see if the micarta scales are removable, and it looks like they are, but unfortunately the hardware, these Chicago screws or whatever you call them, they're not captive. So when I turn it with a T8 screwdriver, that's T8 hardware, this side turns as well. So it's difficult to take the scales apart because of that. I don't really know why they chose to do it that way, but if the scales were to loosen up, there's no really good way to tighten them dead tight. So I hope maybe there's some kind of adhesive underneath. This fuller on the handle is very comfortable actually. When I hold it in a hammer grip or in a gorilla grip, either my fingertips or the heel of my fingers fall right into this groove, and it makes it extremely comfortable, gives me a very nice surface to hold on to. And I like how they rounded. It sort of looks blockish, but it's plenty round on the edges to give you a comfortable grip. I don't know if you can tell, but I am impressed by this knife a heck of a lot more than by some of the more traditional and more expensive outdoor knives. Like anything Essie makes is mediocre in my opinion. Maybe a more superior steel. I will give them potentially a couple points for the steel being just better outdoor type steel, but this is stainless, don't forget that, as opposed to Essie knives. And the blade length of I think it's a 4.5 inch and 9 inch over 8.75 overall length, and I believe this is 4.5 inch full length blade. So plenty of a blade to do most of the camp and hiking tasks. So as you could see, sheath has some kind of other attachment systems, and it comes with a rotating belt clip, so you can technically rotates 180 degrees, so you can orientate it on your belt any way you want. But I strongly recommend considering carrying it in the backpack because of the sheath retention being very mediocre and no secondary method of retention. Or if you decide to put it on your belt, I would run a lanyard that hooks up to something on the sheath so that you don't lose the knife.
And what's up with the name? It reads like Stalin to me. If you are a Swiss-speaking person, could you please let me know?
What I'm doing is I'm checking for hot spots, and so far I'm not finding any. Like I said, this handle is, while contemporary looking, or less than traditionally looking handle, it's very, very comfortable. So again, this knife niche is great for the young scout in your family. As a young hunter, young outdoors enthusiast, or I bet you if your dad or granddad are still using buck 110 and buck 119 or buck 117, they would enjoy this. It would kind of bring them into the wondrous world of modern steel. I think OS 8 will likely to outperform 420C that Buck uses. So it's a slightly higher end, just ever so slightly higher end steel. I know it's listed with the budget steels, but it's probably because it's mass produced overseas and a lot of Asian companies end up using it in their knives. But if you go onto websites that sell a lot of knives, you will see that OS 8 is not used in like completely budget knives. So you will find knives ranging up to $100 in that steel. So I do believe that this particular blade is a bargain, even though I would like to resharpen it a little bit. this is not a particularly practical task that I'm doing, I'm just demonstrating the knife. So, and since I'm doing just that, I'm going to come in with my little pocket blade and see what it feels doing a task it's actually not your first choice of a knife to do this task, but as you can see, the blade geometry facilitates really decent insertion. So you're used to seeing torture tests on my channel. I do that to knives that range from $50 and up usually. Very seldom will you see me sacrificing cheaper knives. Reason is, what do you expect? You know, I expect a lot more out of an expensive knife, and I consider anything over 50 bucks expensive, especially if it's made overseas. Although there are really great knives in that price from 50 to 100, you really don't need to spend any more. Anything more than that, and you're buying a piece of sort of paraphernalia, jewelry. You're paying for the beauty and bragging rights, and maybe slightly better steel than yeah, for chopping, I wish this was on this side of the blade, because what I'm finding is this phalanx is striking on the on this little, I don't know what to call it. It's not really a lanyard hole. It's a lanyard what's it called, bail. It's so my middle finger is striking on this lanyard bail when I do chopping. So I wish they put it on the other side of the handle. So we're getting there. I think a beaver would be done 20 minutes ago. So it's sharp enough to take the bark off, clean the wood, give you shavings for your fire. So really, I'm a little bit of a sharpening snob, and if you saw my sharpening videos, you already know that. It's plenty sharp enough, maybe not for skinning, but woodwork. You know, I forgot to mention that the tip geometry is really good for, it will withstand even some prying, though you shouldn't pry with a knife, as they say, but the strength here will come from thickness right here along this ridge right there, and then this false edge on top and the primary bevel, they come together to a nice point. So I think it's actually going to be a strong pry bar. We can test this theory here. Now look how quickly I got to the fat wood. I'm actually ready to use this knife as my go-to outdoor, and I have really nice expensive knives out there, but something about it I really like. In conclusion, I'm going to circle back to a couple of features that I omitted. Reversible clip on both folders, so they're fully ambidextrous. This knife is partly ambidextrous because it only goes into the sheath one way. I like the aluminum, anodized red aluminum accents here. I think all three knives look fantastic for the price, for any price really. This is actually real carbon fiber, sorry, this is actually a real carbon fiber insert on both sides and anodized aluminum. And with the exception that this mic cutter is polished too slick, I think handles are great. So I would probably run a little bit of sandpaper on this one to bring it to this level of finish. It's satiny but not slick. So this trio of knives set me back exactly $100 minus a couple cents, right? Plus tax. So I dare you find a better deal on the market where you can have your EDC, your outdoor backup, and a pretty decent outdoor blade for $100 altogether. And I'd like to say to this global company, thank you for not inflating the price. I think a knife made in Asia out of Asian produced steel, all materials produced locally there, saves you money and gives you decent amount of utility even in the budget category, and it's a much better deal than paying twice, 3-4 times as much for an Asian product that's made out of American steel, where you pay tariffs on the way out there and coming back. Knife responsibly.